The Citizen Mike Show. News. Commentary. Interviews. Citizen Mike Show starts now.
Hey, welcome to the Citizen Mike Show. Thanks for tuning in. We do appreciate it. My name is Mike Brodinski. This is the episode for April 12, 2018. Over there, on my right, in front of Community Pool, the one and only editor of the Record Journal, Ralph Tomaselli. Ralph, this may be the last night we're going to be sitting in front of the Community Pool out on the open air at night taping a show.
We'll
Maybe
enjoy it then.
we'll have to move our location to somewhere else pertinent, which is the segue for the first short piece, of the Citizen Mike Show. In a second, we're going to have a short clip from the recent budget hearings, public meeting. I reviewed the tape of that. A lot of time was spent by the Board of Ed, of course, on the issue of resource officers. That came up. My editorial comment on resource officers, you'll never see them unless just drop the subject. They ain't happening, in my view. So that's gone. Although the expense of resource officers and things like pools may come up in about 20 minutes when we talk about tax impacts of projects around town. But for a lot of people, me included, the good news is that Community Pool will be opening this summer. After that, the fate of it is, I don't know if it's that much in doubt, but it's being studied. Have you ever been to Community Pool?
Used to spend a lot of time at Community Pool.
Sentimental, you got an emotional attachment to this thing here?
Well,
we're supposed to be objective.
No, what I will say is that
Sure.
when my children were young and before I had my own pool in my own yard, the pool was a really affordable place to go. In other words, for a little bit of money, you had a pool to go to all summer, and when you got little kids, that helps. Yeah.
We're going to report more on this, down the line when the study committee comes out. But now let's hear what John Gawlak, who is the director of Parks and Recreation, had to say about Community Pool. So, Bruce, let's hit that. 3, 2, 1, go.
The Park and Rec Commission has been meeting. We've had 7 meetings since 1st of January, every other Tuesday. We continue with those. We're getting ready to roll out a general public survey with our summer brochure mailing, which will occur mid-May. So hopefully we'll get some results from that. We continue to meet and try to come up with some of the concepts that we've shared and some cost estimates. So hopefully, with any hope, maybe sometime midsummer or end of the summer, we'll be able to come back to council and do a presentation.
Excellent.
Okay, and we'll comment then when that comes up. So let's pivot to something else. And it's a big event that is coming to Wallingford, or may not come to Wallingford. A big development that I think probably will be located near the Tillage Road connector and Route 5. And this has been kicking around. I'll get more detail of what we're talking about in a second. This has been kicking around for a while, but it was sort of off my radar screen for a couple of years, although I think under the radar there's been serious and intense discussion about a huge multi-million-dollar project. Mm-hmm. It hit the radar screen, really, I think it was on Sunday or Monday in the Record Journal.
It ran in print on Monday, and I only know that because I
Yeah,
worked on that
Monday.
article on a Sunday or on the weekend.
So let me get to a few lines
Okay.
of that, and we'll
Okay.
crack the egg that way, okay? 'Cause there's a lot of angles to this.
Okay.
So by Matt Zabarick at Dateline Wallingford, a developer is looking to purchase 25 acres. Let's just pause there. That's huge. That's a huge tract, 25 acres,
Right.
okay, of undeveloped land on all Nexus USA's 240-acre South Cherry Street property to build a large warehouse and office building. Next sentence. Developer had submitted applications to the Planning and Zoning Commission to build a, pause, 230,000 square foot warehouse.
Okay.
Could be the biggest warehouse, biggest commercial structure other than Bristol Myers in Wallingford. I'm not sure of that.
Right.
It is huge by comparison. And in addition, a 21,000 square foot office building at the south end of All Nexus property at 10 to 20 Tully's Road. And it goes on. They have, the obligatory comment from All Nexus spokesman. It's got to go in front of P&Z. And now, whenever there's a commercial development, of course, on your Rolodex, the Record Journal, you go to Tim Ryan,
Right.
spokesperson for
Absolutely.
economic. You got to go to Tim Ryan,
Yes.
and he's going to have any, positive comments.
Right.
So he says, well, the ground over there is all sand, and there's value in sand, and you can excavate it out and sell it, said Tim Ryan, the town's economic development specialist. And the article goes on that the sand operation could take up to about 5 years, and it would take about 18 months to 2 years to build up the warehouse after the sand operation is done. But the environmentalists somehow got on board very quickly. And did not have kind things to say about this project because this location is in a sand plain area.
Right.
Okay? A sensitive area that clearly environmentalists in the past had said is a unique habitat, home to unique species. Yeah, that's what was reported.
According to the paperwork that they filed along with the application.
Yeah.
I don't think we talked to any of the environmental groups.
Do you have an idea how the environmental groups got tipped off that this application in front of planning and zoning was coming up?
I'm sorry, Mike.
Yeah.
I wish I'm not as prepared as I'd like to be.
Well, no, I mean, I'm
But,
not sure you could even say. Because,
right, right. I know,
sources
I know.
have to stay confidential, and I get that.
But no, I
Yeah.
don't think it's even that. But
Yeah.
it is, like I said, I think what we got a hold of was a letter, some kind of a letter in the article, I don't have it in front of me,
Yeah.
that must have been along with the application.
Well, in the planning and zoning files are a lot of letters.
You
from,
looked.
Yeah, oh yeah, I spent.
Did you see the letter from
Oh,
the
yeah,
environmental?
there's a lot of letters.
Well, that's what
There's a
we.
lot of letters.
That's what we. Matt Zabarick, excuse me.
Yeah.
Must have looked at the file and.
But somehow these environmental groups knew to send in letters, and that's
can't-
what I, was wondering. How did they know this is coming up?
Well, you said that this project has. I have to admit, I had never heard of this project, or I don't recall this project until it ran just a week ago. But you had said that it had been on the table for a number of years.
Yeah, but not the specific offer. Not the All Nexus. It's known All Nexus wanted to sell this, but the timing of the letters. Why did they guess correctly that the Planning and Zoning Commission within a week was going to hear the application? How did they know? But we'll move on. So just going down the article, the usual blah, blah, blahs, but the 25-acre parcel contains the largest undeveloped sand plain or sand barren in Connecticut, according to the article.
According to who?
Your reporting.
Okay.
And a dry acidic forest, both of which are designated as critical habitat areas by the state DEEP. Remarkable a site, according to one of the letters that are in the P&Z file.
Mm-hmm.
Some quotes from some of the people, or some extracts from the letters that are
Right.
in the planning and zoning file. Once developed, Tim Ryan, the economic development specialist, is confident the property would be very saleable because of its proximity to I-91 and the rail line. And while Ryan wouldn't name the developer, we will. It's in the file. It's known. I don't know why they're so secretive.
Okay.
It's Rusty Rogers.
Okay.
That name is known to a lot of folks that follow planning and zoning and development. I mean, I don't know why it's just, well, we don't want to say who the developer is. Seriously? Why not? I mean, it's Rusty Rogers. It's Rusty Rogers, according to the documents on file in the Planning and Zoning Commission. Well, Ryan wouldn't name the developer. He said the developer has entertained inquiries from a number of companies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Let's get our geography down.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we have a JPEG that, well, Bruce, let's just put that on the screen and we'll see if we can narrate that. So folks, go to near the border of North Haven and Wallingford on Route 5.
Mm-hmm.
And you see, you know the connector, the Tully's Road connector, what do you call it? Do you call it the Route 5, what do you call the
I call it the
connector?
Wharton Brook connector.
Wharton Brook connector. So the Wharton Brook connector is labeled there as Tully's Road, but that's really the Wharton Brook connector. And the red arrow, that's my arrow,
Right.
with the help of Google Earth, points to the general location of the 25-acre parcel where this project, which we're going to describe in more detail in a minute, where that's located. Are you oriented, Ralph?
Well, I am oriented because just as
Yeah.
a little aside
Okay.
for you and our viewers,
Sure.
if you go up what's labeled, okay, so on the screen, if you scan to your right
Okay.
along what is Tully's Road, labeled Tully's Road, but is actually the Wharton Brook connector,
Mm-hmm.
and you go almost to the edge in Pond Hill.
Yes.
Okay. There's a little triangle where Pond Hill and the connector kind of come together.
Okay.
That's where I live.
Wow.
So I'm, as the crow flies,
You're right there.
I'm right there, yes.
All right. This story that I'm trying to unpack has a lot of angles and a lot of wrinkles. And what I want to do is first get out the facts. And there's some, what I think is some reprehensible conduct involved. We haven't gotten to that yet, and I
Okay.
want to highlight that when we get to it. And then I'm going to turn to you and say, okay, what do you think about this project? But let's get the facts
Okay,
out
good,
first,
good,
all right?
good.
But I'm going to put you on the hot spot.
Okay,
All right, we're gonna do that, and
okay,
you can turn the tables on me, and I'll duck it.
okay.
So here's what this is all about, and this is according to documents I found in the planning and zoning file. This is again basically a 26 acre parcel, frontage road, and access from Tully's. After the land is divided legally, if they're allowed to do it, the applicant, Rusty Rogers, and his company, I think there's a company in back of it, but he's the human being, you know, intends to open a temporary sand processing facility. The plant cycle is anticipated to be 3 to 5 years. The design incorporates a 50-foot natural wooded buffer around the property. The inside of the buffer will be excavated to a depth of approximately 14 feet below existing grade. Make a note, 14 feet below existing grade, because we're going to talk about remediation at some point, you and I. I'm skipping, and there's a lot more material in the file if anyone's interested. The excavated sand is going to be blended with imported coarser sand and then exported. It'll operate about 200 to 220 days a year. The downtime for the plant will be in the winter. They could import no more than 3 truckloads of stuff, but they're going to export about 1,000 tons a day, or about 200,000 tons a year, approximately 40 to 50 trucks, or a total of 80 to 100 truck trips per day on average. This is an industrial zone. I mean, I'm not running through this as a shock value.
No.
This is what you'd expect, you know, in a successful industrial site, right?
And in fact, only because I live in that area,
Yeah.
but those 2 steel companies, on Tully's Road, not far from where this goes. I mean, they have trucks coming in and out all the time, so there's a great deal of truck traffic on that road. Heavy truck traffic,
So there's no judgment. What I'm trying to say, there's no judgment attached to this, but we're trying to familiarize ourselves with the nuts and bolts of the operation.
Right.
So I'm skipping a lot. They're going to use a lot of water in their in their operation. In fact, this says 576,000 gallons a day. The Water Division has, weighed on to this, has informed the town, yeah, they can do it. They have some, conditions or, things they want done, but it's a customer and revenue for the Water Division. There's going to be a settling basin to expedite the material. There's a settling basin will be incorporated using the principles of Stokes' law. I don't know, don't ask me. And gravity to allow suspended particles to drop to the bottom, so on and so forth. And so they got these lagoons. There's going to be conditions on the grade, how that's supposed to work. They're going to spray some stuff on to minimize dust and erosion. They're going to use water to try to control dust and erosion. When it's all said and done, there will be sort of a dishing or a bowl effect on the site, and after the sand processing operation is all done and they harvest all the sand, that's when the building comes in.
They say.
Thank you. Why did you say that?
Because I've seen similar plans before, and often after the natural elements, usually in the past it's been a quarry, it's been rock. In this case it's sand. Usually after that's harvested, the initial developer's lust for the project usually subsides. I don't want to. That's not to impugn anything Mr. Rogers has said, or I'm not. I'm just telling you what I've seen in the past. That this has mostly been about getting the rock, or in this case the sand, which has more value than the average person realizes, I think, and getting permits to do what he's suggesting here are hard to come by, because if you're in any way close to a residential area, people oppose you and often win. So that's why I said.
Well, I think you raised a good point and a possibility, the possibility that things don't unfold like they often are projected. So you're right, the building may not
Right.
be built, or may not be built for a while.
Right, and even if you take that, the lust for the project that I bring up and the connection to the natural elements that you're taking out, to speculate on office buildings and warehouses 7 years down the line in itself has its shakiness to it.
Things may change.
Things will change. We know they'll change, but how much the changes affect this project, we don't know.
If the building is built, the question is how much extra taxes will that generate? That has not been discussed publicly. It's not, strictly speaking, a planning and zoning issue, but it's probably on what everyone is thinking about, what a lot of people are thinking about. What are we going to get out of this in the way of taxes? So I did a little work.
Okay.
And I tried to find some raw data on some larger commercial buildings in Wallingford. Not to make, I don't even want to say to make a comparison, just for my own Citizen Mike reference points, to get a big target of 300,000 maybe to 500,000 in taxes once it's built, based on, well, I used 30 mills because the mill rate is going to go up over the years. I mean, I could have based it on 35 mills,
right?
Because in 5 years, that could be. So even, this is a very rough number, 300,000 a year to 500,000 a year in taxes. It's a lot of money if this unfolds the way the developer thinks it's going to unfold. It's a ton of money. It would pay for community pools.
Right.
It would pay for resource officers. You like that segue?
I do.
So for those who say, well, I'll have two resource officers, one community pool, another open space project, repave more roads, and keep the change, that has to be paid for, and it's projects like this that help pay for that. I see you're unhappy with what I just said.
Well, no, it gets back, though. This is often how these projects, this is the shiny object or the attraction.
Absolutely.
Right. But I go back to my original point that this is what gets communities excited about these things. But what hasn't changed here is how can you speculate on a warehouse and an office building 7 years from now and say with certainty that you're going to put it in?
Well, no one is spending the money, and I can see I'm going to have to be the foil all through this.
Yeah, no, be the foil.
I'm going to have to be the foil.
I don't claim that. I'm just bringing up this point.
I'm going to have to be the foil all through the show. I get that, but. Of course, no one is spending the money, but on the one hand, you say, well, what are you going to do with the property? You're expected to have some aspirations, some plans, some vision, and to be transparent about what your vision is. So he said, well, if everything goes well, I'd like to have this, huge facility there, this 230,000 square foot warehouse, and I want to get permitted for it through the Planning and Zoning Commission now, because ultimately that's what I hope to do.
Well, but
that make sense?
I think things are going to go well.
Yeah.
Once you get the permit.
Sure.
To run this sand processing, things are going to go well.
Okay.
Whether or not you ever build a building after that, I'm just bringing up the point that I think things go well the minute you do the sand processing.
So I want to change gears a little bit, then come back.
Right.
Some of these nuts and bolts operational type issues.
Right.
So after the sand processing is done, there's going to be a dish or bowl sort of effect, and they're supposed to smooth it out and pretty it up, with soil and seed and maybe some trees and all those kind of details that the Planning and Zoning Commission have to deal with. And then, but what puts teeth into the requirement that the property be remediated according to specifications, and then there's a bond, like a completion bond, that if they don't do the work they promise to do, the bond gets pulled. And how much that is, I think, is still unknown at this point. How much the amount of the bond is unknown, but that's the protection for the remediation. It doesn't protect against not building the warehouse.
Right.
Okay, I just wanted to.
I think that's crucial too.
Yeah.
The size of the bond.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's going to be worked on. I mean, from my review of the file, actually two separate days and, spending a lot of hours there, the town certainly is treating this as a very serious project, and they're trying to dot all the T's and cross all the I's, and get input from all departments. So the town with more than one department will work out, some price or the amount of the bond. But now, and things like traffic studies have been done. I mean, there's a ton of work that goes into this. But let's get down to the marquee, more sensational issue that maybe some people have latched onto, and that's the environmental impact, let's call it, of this project. There is no that I can see evidence of in the file environmental impact outside the boundaries of the parcel. Okay. Now, that may come up at a later time. I'm just saying, in my review of things and chatting around and trying to, overturn rocks to see what's underneath, there's no smoke, steam, chemicals being, there's no dirty water that I can tell being released into the Quinnipiac River. So the environmental impact, which is very controversial at this point, and we're going to get into that, is within the boundaries of the property.
Okay.
And that gets into why are we so concerned? Why are people so concerned? Why do these environmental groups write so many impassioned letters to the Planning and Zoning file, really seeking a denial of this permit and killing the project? What's going on there now, and why is it so important? A procedural matter. This project is going to go to the state DEEP at some point. But I think it's questionable, at least in my mind it's questionable. There may be people out there that know the answer in black and white. It's questionable whether the DEEP is going to review with close scrutiny the impact, if any, on species, on habitat, on the flora and fauna, on the critters and plants that live within the boundaries of the property. I don't think that's known. If someone wants to unequivocally and without an agenda and a bias say, oh, absolutely, DEEP will review it again. Wallingford, you don't have to be that careful. I'm not so sure that's true. I'm not sure anyone knows how the DEEP is going to react. Now, did I just muff my meaning here?
No, I think you're doing a good job.
Okay, because I may need your help if I'm screwing this up.
I think the thing about... Well, why don't you keep going, and because I don't want to throw us out of water.
I just took a sip of water.
Okay.
You can't. That's why I turned to you. I got to take a sip.
Okay,
I got my water now. So it appears as if the burden is on the Planning and Zoning Commission now to consider the environmental impact, if any, within the boundaries of the property, and to aid them in that. These environmental groups and staff within the town hall have written some stuff.
Okay.
And I just want to share bits and pieces. This is by no means a complete picture.
Okay.
They're little snippets of contents of stuff that I found in the file. So this is from a consultant that I believe was hired by the developer, and I want you to pay close attention to the choice of words, because I'm not sure what to make of it. But the question from the town was, what are the potential environmental impacts of the proposal? Wait for it.
Go ahead.
An environmental study has been completed. I don't know where that is. I don't know who has it. It appears to be unavailable. As we will see in a few minutes, the mayor seems to be familiar with it, but no one else does. But right off the bat, an environmental study has been completed. Frankly, you know, I like to do my own thinking and do my own reading, and I don't want anyone characterizing to me what a document says. Just give me the document and we can talk about it, yeah?
Right.
Okay.
Good point.
So an environmental study has been completed, and they say there are no matters of concern.
Well, that has to get your radar up.
There are no matters.
Yeah, it's certainly.
You know how distrustful I am.
Well, no,
over the years.
but no matters of concern. When are there no matters of concern?
And you may be surprised on which side of the issue I come down on.
Right.
But there are no matters of concern that have been identified in the soil or groundwater assessment. That doesn't equate to a full environmental impact. Because it does not at all.
No.
The site contains no wetlands, wetland soils, or water courses. An application will be submitted to the Connecticut DEEP general permit for the discharge of stormwater associated with industrial activity. So I read that and I say, oh, you're trying to put me off the trail, or what's going on here? But I certainly would look at the environmental study and take a look at the scope of it. Right. What were you looking for? What was the factual basis? And clearly consider the source. I mean, it's being paid for by the developer. Not that it isn't authoritative. No. I mean, I just want to, you know. Right. Okay, we're moving on. Unfortunately, I didn't take the cover letter, but I think this comes from the Connecticut Botanical Society. It's a multi-page report that is in the Planning and Zoning file, and it says that the Connecticut Botanical Society, for the CBS Botanical Society, to comment in more detail on this matter, we request that a copy of the, in italics, full report by William Moorhead, the consulting botanist for Allnex, be entered into the public record. I did not see that.
Okay.
I'm not sure that request was honored.
Give me that one again, Mike.
Yeah.
Please. Excuse me.
For CBS, Connecticut Botanical Society, to comment in more detail on this matter, we request, this is not the town, we request that a copy of the full report by William Moorhead, the consulting botanist for Allnex, be entered into the public record.
It's not in the public record.
I mean, someone would have to.
The report.
Someone would have to. I mean, it maybe. I just want to say that that it doesn't appear. I'm not sure what's going on here.
Right.
I'm not sure what's going on.
You're not the only one that can't find it.
I'm not sure what's going on there, and maybe there's more reports than one.
Right.
You know, that's kind of what I'm saying. Maybe there's. I don't know. Okay. So, but anyway, this goes on to to express environmental concerns about the site. Now, there's an internal Town of Wallingford document, and it was, I believe, this was penned for the Conservation Commission by the environmental planner, and I believe it goes back to 2016. A lot of categories. It talks about the sandplain area. Today, this threatened sandplain area supports 2 of Connecticut's designated critical habitat areas, dry acidic forest, and sand barren. See attached DEP correspondence. 9 state-listed species are documented to occur on the site. Skipping, I'm turning the pages, but a lot of other information. It appears the singular qualities of this unique habitat may not preclude its development after all, because the state of Connecticut cannot block alteration of the site on the basis of the occurrence of numerous state-listed species or on the basis of its status as supporting 2 state of Connecticut critical habitats without inviting a takings lawsuit. Let me stop there and remind me to come back to that. This is what the mayor was referring to in a video, which we're going to see in 5 or 10 minutes.
Okay.
There's a principle of law that if you regulate a parcel of land out of all its possible uses, you just the regulations are so burdensome that you've lost the benefit of ownership. That's kind of like an eminent domain.
Okay.
And that's what was referred to here. If the state of Connecticut, what the mayor is going to say in a second, if the town is so over-regulates, I guess would be the judgmental, over-regulates the parcel so that it can't be used for much, that's essentially a taking, and compensation is owed to the owner just as much as an eminent domain proceeding would be. It's eminent domain by regulation. Are you with me so far?
I am.
Okay. In other situations, the DEP works with developers in the site planning process to compromise on a management plan for the identified state-listed species and so on and so forth, blah, 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 blah. The sand barrens habitat is listed in the DEEP 2015 Connecticut Wildlife Action Plan as a threatened habitat in need of conservation. The Tully's Road sandplain is recommended for protection in several Town of Wallingford land use documents. Wallingford Open Space Plan 1999, Envision Wallingford, which is the Plan of Conservation in 2005, the Wallingford Draft Plan of Conservation and Development 2016, and so on.
I will add, Mike, that if you live in that area,
right,
like I do,
yep,
you're aware of this unique nature to the soil and the prevalence of pine trees, and that there has been some designation that, again, I'm only passing along that there is some feeling that has some qualities that someone might want to preserve. Does that, did I spit that out? Or?
You did.
Okay.
And there's more supporting material, and I just want to get this out before we turn the point over.
Good.
Okay, because I'm going to do that to you. So this is a very recent document by Aaron O'Hare, Wallingford's environmental planner, April 6, 2018. It's a 3 or 4 page document, and I'm skipping a lot. But there's a reference to environmentally sensitive features. I believe, she writes, I believe the intent of this required information is required to alert the Planning and Zoning Commission on sensitive stuff like the Trap Rock Ridge. So I'm skipping. In this instance, the environmentally sensitive features on this 26-acre area and abutting this proposed lot area are 3 imperiled habitats as so identified by the state of Connecticut: sand barrens, the acidic forest, and the pitch pine forest on sand occurring there. And there's a lot more detail I'm not going into because I don't have memorized. I don't want to go into the the names of the plants and the animals that referred to. But I'm not going to get into that detail. The pitch pine stand is representative. Is the only representative pitch pine stand left in Wallingford, according to former DEP state botanist Kenneth Metzler, and so on. And it goes on to say how historically this area has been looked at and appreciated by many in the environmental area as a unique habitat and a home, or potentially a home, to some species that are or may be threatened. But there is no documented herpetological, which is amphibians or reptiles. There's no study of reptiles or amphibians pertaining to this. Now, the last one that I want to get to is from the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, April 9, 2018.
Wow.
Recent stuff. And that's why I asked you right off. How did the... Well, anyway, April 9, 2018. Dear Mr. Seichter.
That would have been the day the story ran in the Record Journal. So that, I don't, maybe that's got
I want the
something
pieces to try to... Yeah.
Right, maybe that's got something to do with it.
The Department of Energy and Environmental Protection Wildlife Division would like to provide testimony regarding the importance of the rare natural communities
They read it.
and habitats documented on Allneck's property on Tully's Road. I'm skipping. The site hosts rare communities and state-listed species. The North Haven sand plain is an interesting geological feature. It goes on to explain. I'm not reading that. I'm skipping. There's a long history of preservation interest in this site. I'm not reading that. I'm skipping. And the DEP Wildlife Division would be happy to offer technical assistance to the town of Wallingford, and I'm not reading all that. Bruce, would you tee up that last video? 3, 2, 1, hit it.
To my knowledge, there have been studies done, and the uniqueness of it does no longer exist. Apparently at one time it did, but there's no findings of any of the unique characteristics that were believed to have once been there. For the town to do anything about it, we would have to be in a position to purchase the property. We are not in a position to purchase the property, and that's where we stand. A lengthy study was done on the property. At one time, it's called a pitch pine sand plain. At one time, I'm sure it was viable. It is no longer viable. A 25-acre area is not enough area to support much in the way of unique plant or animal life. The study indicated there was no sign of any unique plant or animal life. Again, you know, we have to set our priorities. At one time, that I'm sure was viable. It is no longer viable. And if we were to buy it, if it were found to be unique, you could not have people visiting it or walking through it. So the public would have no access to it should we spend the money and set it aside. But again, if there were some uniqueness to it left, you know, I'd be listening. But the most recent study indicates, and a lengthy study over several seasons, that there is no evidence of uniqueness any longer.
So my question is, and I mean no sarcasm in this, what study is he talking about? That's a serious question. There is another study out there, apparently paid for by Allnex or the developer,
Right.
that he specifically referred to, that his own environmental planner is unaware of,
Right.
that DEP is unaware of.
Right.
I infer, because it's not in the file, that the Planning and Zoning Commission is not, nor maybe never will be, aware of. And the mayor is sort of dropping this out in the public domain, expecting to be quoted and requoted. No, there's no, you know, no, there's no uniqueness to this. He's referring to a study which we can't read. Right. And over the years, as you know from my commentary, I've been of the opinion that mayor has had his truthiness problems. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to take his word on what a study says unless I can read the study. Let's have the study. Clear this up. If there's a study, Mayor, that you read and you're relying on and making these comments and attempt to sway public opinion, pop the study and let's see it. Why wouldn't he do that? And I got one reason why he wouldn't, but I want you to think about that because I'm going to go to you in a minute.
Good.
Why would he release a study so people can analyze it, verify it, challenge
Right.
it, attack it?
Right.
You know, why not just hold it until the last minute if it's absolutely needed? in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission, pop it on their desks, and see, no, there's nothing to worry about, and besides, DEP will take care of everything, even if you don't. Apparently, his own environmental planner didn't know about this study when she's writing memos to the file saying this is a sensitive area, and the mayor is sitting on some report that he has or knows about, and he's convinced that there isn't. How do you square that circle? I'm serious.
How do I square it?
Yeah, what's going on here? What's going on?
What is going on here?
Yeah.
Wow, because you unpacked a lot, and nice job. First of all, I would assume, well, here's the thing. If the mayor had a study that showed clearly what he just said, why wouldn't he email it to the Record Journal and say, hey?
Because people will then look at it, analyze
it. Okay, right.
it.
So that's my point.
Yeah.
That a good lawyer, if he actually has evidence that supports his case, and I think sometimes we forget the mayor was a lawyer before, he would have sent that to us and said, here's a study that says that this development should go forward, but he didn't do that.
Maybe what I think, let me put this in my words, what you just said, and you checkmate if I stretched you.
Good.
If the study was as clear as the mayor said, he would have popped it.
Right.
It's because it's not as clear. It's more ambiguous and more nuance than the mayor wants, so he's holding it back. Is that what you were getting at?
Absolutely, and we know that because we know that the state is writing as recently as April 9th saying that they have some concerns about that area.
Yeah.
So it can't be that black and white.
Yeah.
I mean...
So if I was on the Planning and Zoning Commission,
right,
and at some public hearing or some meeting when this application was considered, I found that there is a pre-existing study in existence for perhaps months that was withheld, either because there's no requirement to submit it or because strategically they decided it wasn't in their interest to do it, or both. And then it's, you know, maybe at the last minute it's dropped on the table, or they never put it out. I'd be a little miffed.
But there's not really...
I'd feel like I've been worked over, taken advantage of. I don't know.
Okay, but
yeah.
Now is this the mayor speaking at a council meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Public question and answer.
All right, and I think though that your scenario about the planning commission is the planning commission can't really make the mayor produce this report. Do you?
Suppose.
But that's not the way Mike.
Well, it was like a Rachel perfect spot for a messy kind of an.
But I have to admit, my gut reaction was.
But as far as ever enjoying the property, $300,000 to $500,000, because you want to protect this sensitive habitat, isn't that the choice? And the comeback could be, no, that's not the choice, and maybe it's a false choice, and I'll allow for that, but I'm willing to debate that.
Yeah, well,
I mean, isn't this the issue?
Well, I don't know if it's that black and white, but
okay.
As a layperson, my main concern about this development is the sand processing operation and the town's ability to regulate that sand processing, get the property cleaned up, and that's my main concern.
What specifically, again, is the fear?
No, it's not, and I don't mean to...
I just need to flesh it out a little bit.
Because I think about sand processing, I think about quarries, that's not but I said a lay person. So I think about noise, I think about dust, I think about trucks. And even though this is not a pristine area, I would want... That's my concern, is just the town, it wouldn't hold this up, but the town's ability to put some regulations on that and also enforce the regulations.
Well, let's take that off the table, arguendo.
Okay, good.
Assume for a minute that the Planning and Zoning Commission and the environmental planner and just all the staff do their job.
Okay.
And they do all that is humanly possible to mitigate adverse impacts. Now, where do you stand? It's industrial property.
Yeah, no, I'm okay. I'm absolutely okay with it. I'm okay with the sand processing as long as the...
And crush those sandworms. Dig them up and process.
What bothers me is I don't want the town thinking about the warehouse and the office building, because,
Okay, we don't.
right.
Well, let's take that off the table,
right.
arguendo.
So all I want them to do is just put in some, not egregious or not cumbersome, but I just want them to have rules and have teeth to enforce the rules.
I just want to make this choice
Good.
clear here.
Good.
So
Am I
when
not
it comes
answering-
down to in one corner,
Right.
the rare cicada,
Okay,
and in the other corner, the tax dollars and an industrial use,
right.
the cicada can go. Yeah?
Yeah, I have to admit, I'm leaning more towards the tax dollars now. If someone came forward, Mary Mashinsky, someone else, the DEP, and shed some new light on some creatures there that, but no, as I sit here right now, I have to admit, I'm leaning towards the tax dollars.
So all we need is evidence of cicadas?
No, I don't
Okay.
know.
All right.
I think
All
it'd be hard. I think I am generally okay with the notion of developing this land. I am, and so I'll leave it at that.
So I just want to come back to an earlier point, and then maybe we'll begin to wrap this up.
But you didn't tell me. You didn't tell me what your choice would be.
My choice. So I'm going to give you a preface, and then I'm going to give you my choice.
Okay.
Okay. Almost all of my hobbies and spare time take place out of doors.
Yes, and I know that.
The stuff that I do, the stuff that I'm going to do,
Right, no.
the activities that I do.
Right.
And I signed up for fly fishing lessons in Vermont in May.
No, you are an outdoors person.
So, litter irritates me.
Right.
Dirty air, dirty
Yes.
water, and skies irritate me. And when I go on a piece of wilderness, I want it to seem like wilderness. I want to be able to look up at the sky
Right.
and see, the constellations. No noise pollution, air pollution, or anything else. Wilderness should be wilderness, and I'll fight to my dying breath for those kinds of results. This is not that.
Okay.
And I just don't care, that much about it when you consider the benefits inuring to the taxpayers of Wallingford over the long haul that could improve their lives in a real way with this kind of money. The job creation, I never followed that path. Like, how many jobs is this going to create? But the tax dollars do mean something that could make a difference. So I'm not backing the cicadas.
Okay. Good.
I just want to come back to one final point, and that is the role of the DEEP. To say the DEEP will handle this passes the buck.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure the buck stops with the DEP. I'm not sure what they do has any teeth. It doesn't give me any comfort. I mean, the real decision is with the local planning and zoning commission, which I think is an unfair burden. They're supposed to litigate in front of them in a forum which admits hearsay evidence and agendized signed
Right.
letters. They're supposed to litigate the future of threatened species in a 2 or 3 hour hearing. I mean, seriously?
No, that's a good
This should
point.
be a state policy where one town, let's say North Haven, they exploit their sand plain and leave Wallingford as the last one, so that people can come to Wallingford and say, you're the last town, don't sacrifice the sand plain. Hamden did, North Haven did, Meriden did, Cromwell did, but not Wallingford. I mean, that's an unfair burden. Yeah. It should be a statewide policy. If the state wants to protect species, it should be done with teeth at the state level and get the local P&Zs off the hook from this kind of pressure and decision making. So I don't envy the P&Z folks. I don't know what they're going to do, but they should get that report. Whatever that secret report is, they should get that. However it cuts, I don't know.
Well,
yeah.
Regardless of what the local...
And I'm going to take some water.
Yeah, regardless of what the local boards decide, doesn't the state have the ability to, in essence, halt the project?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
It's unclear. I mean, they have wastewater discharges and things like that. But halt the project on the basis of endangered species, to me, that's very much in question.
Okay.
And I think someone could easily say, don't worry about what Wallingford does, DEP will take care of it. I'm not sure they will. I'm not sure that's going to happen. That's the doubt I want to throw on this, and I don't know if anyone can be trusted with the answer, short of a research project and a written legal opinion.
Right.
But a casual opinion, oh, don't worry, DEP is going to do it. I'm not accepting that without more authority. Did I?
No. I think you make a good point. And I wasn't taking sides suggesting the state should weigh in. I'm just saying, does the state have the ability?
And I'm saying that's an unknown.
That's an unknown.
To me, that's an unknown.
The one thing, though, that I would say is that...
Because they haven't so far.
No, they haven't. You're right. But if I was the mayor, I would just be careful, because I don't think the state appreciates... it's been at least my experience with local officials that, if they have documents that could shed light on this, they should bring them forward, and they shouldn't be mysterious, and they really shouldn't be mysterious about it with the state, because that's a sure way to get the state interested, if you ask me.
Let's make that the final word.
Good.
To be continued. I am sure this may come up in the Planning and Zoning meeting in May. We'll see. Thanks for tuning in to the Susan Mike Show. Ralph and I are here Wednesdays in the early evening, but WPAA broadcasts the Citizen Mike Show at 9 at night on Thursday, on Friday, and Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And the studio also posts up on YouTube, the Citizen Mike Show. Go to YouTube, search the Citizen Mike Wallingford channel, or we can send you an email directly with a link to the show. You don't have to go through any other interim steps. Thanks for tuning in. Again, we appreciate it. And if it's 9 at night, it's Citizen Mike. Good night, everybody.